different people in to sing. Like he could, I think on that show he might have had Mike Reno, a lover boy maybe, or and then me from Triumph and stuff. But he had Bunny Carlos in to play, and I think Rockford was pretty much home territory for both of those guys growing up.
Yeah.
So Bunny told this great story about he's in New York and Cheap Trick's been on the road forever, and he gets a call and it's from an engineer pal of his who says, "Hey Bunny, it's on Sunday night tomorrow. Can you come in and do a session? I can't really. Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be a John Lennon session. Can you come?" And Bunny goes, "Oh man, I'd really love to, but tomorrow's the only day I've got off, and I got to fly home because I got to do my laundry." So he says, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say no because it's my only day off, and we're back out on the road tomorrow." So he flies home and does his laundry. On that Sunday, that was the day that John Lennon cut Imagine in the studio. And so Bunny said, "I could have been on, John Lennon's Imagine. I could have been the drummer on that session, but I had to go do my laundry." So it was a great story.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Bunny's story. I can't take any credit. All I did was listen.
Yeah.
So.
Dude, I'd have put off laundry day.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he would. He regrets it now, and he wouldn't do it either.
Well, shoot, man, let's keep going. So let's welcome Rik Emmett to Barside Jive on the air. How's it going, Rik?
It's going great, DC. Yes, I'm feeling very relaxed sitting here in my library at home.
That's awesome. I guess COVID has taught us how to do this stuff from home, right?
Well, certainly, when we were trying to get this up and rolling, we were experiencing some of the glitches of the digital universe. But yeah, well, I mean, we live in a digital universe now, and we have for a long time, couple of decades. But we're certainly now realizing that there's things we can do. I did one of those rock and roll fantasy camp masterclass things last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's online, and it was a lot of fun.
Right.
And it's great that you don't have to sort of, go to the airport, go through customs, fly somewhere, go and get in a limo, go to the hotel, check into the hotel, all of that stuff. It's just all I have to do is figure out how to be able to make this Google Meets thing work. And it's like, hey, okay, I can talk to DC. This is fine. This is great. I don't have to travel. So
right.
That's good.
Well, tell me, let's just go back to the beginning and let's talk about that place in your life, Rik, when you discovered music and the desire to play it. Can we go back that far?
Sure. Yeah, I go right back to the beginning.
Okay.
I sang in the church choir and the school choir. Like my mom would drag me off to church choir rehearsals when I was 7. I was a boy soprano, and I already sort of had an ability to sing that got me in school choirs and church choirs and that kind of stuff. And I think when I was about 8 or 9, my grandfather gave me a guitar that he got out of his sister's closet. It had like palm trees and hula dancers stenciled on the front. It was like one of those, crappy Sears catalog things. So it was horrible, but I could pink and plunk away on it. And then February 9, 1964, Beatles played on Ed Sullivan, and the world changed for everybody my age.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was desperate for an electric guitar, and yeah, there's that. My parents kind of signed me up for some guitar lessons, and so I was studying out of the Mel Bay book and plinking and plunking away. Here's something that it's fairly weird and rare. I'm actually a left-handed guy. So when I picked up a guitar, I wanted to play like Paul McCartney. That was my natural inclination. And the first guitar teacher I had was a guy named Jack Arsenault, and he was a left-handed guy who played the standard right-handed way. And so when I went in for those lessons and started to go, I want to play like this, he goes, no, you're going to learn. Switched it around in my lap. I went, oh no, this feels really weird. He goes, look, just trust me, kid. Give me a month, and I promise you're going to be better than all your right-handed pals because your strong hand's going to be on the fretboard, and you're going to be playing bar chords before they can, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so it's true. And I think, part of the thing, just human stuff, right? Like when you're a little kid and you're doing better than all the other little kids, then it's kind of like, ooh, you're being reinforced. Your behavior is being reinforced in a really positive way. So, that definitely set me on the path. It was like I was, on my street, I was the best guitar player. In my neighborhood, I was kind of the best guitar player. So yeah, big fish in small ponds. It was good for the evolutionary development of me.
Well, that's cool that your parents were supportive. Did they play as well?
No, my mom sang and
Mhm.
sang in the church choir, but no, and my dad, as he often said, couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. And but and they were not keen on when my hair was starting to grow out and looking like yours, and when I was staying out late for band rehearsals, and the schoolwork was going right down the toilet. Um, that they were not necessarily as supportive as they had been, but after a while, like when I started going out on the road and playing in bands and stuff, and I would be showing up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, coming home. I was still living at home. Uh, I would give them money for room and board and stuff, and so they were, then it was like, okay, it looks like it's maybe turning into something professional. There was enough stuff that happened in my life, like at the same time that I was playing in bar bands and basement bands and playing rock, I was also jobbing. I was in, I had a suit, and I would go and play country and western gigs, and I got some fairly steady work out of a guy that ran a Jewish wedding bar mitzvah thing. So, I would sing the Fiddler on the Roof medley,
Wow.
for the people up and down Bathurst Street in Toronto in the synagogues. So, there was enough sort of positive, feedback from the actual business itself that I think my parents kind of went, okay, no, maybe this is actually going to happen for him, and then slowly but surely it did. But to give you a sort of a kicker for the story, I don't think my dad actually believed that I had a real job until I bought him a house. You know,
Wow.
that was coming to him. Oh, so this music business thing's working out for you? Is it okay?
It
You know,
actually pays.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's really cool. And he
Yeah, I mean, I bought him a car, and I don't think that was enough. The house was more the
that
kicker.
was it. Wow, that's really cool that you did that. Yeah. Well, so how did Triumph get its start?
The Mike Levine and Gilmore had cooked the plan that
Mm.
they wanted to have this three-piece power trio thing, and they
Hmm.
went looking for guitar players. And they auditioned a few people, and they came and saw me playing. I was playing in a more progressive kind of a trio thing uh, at a bar called the Hollywood Tavern in West End, Toronto. And they came and saw me playing there, and they thought I was the guy. That like I could sing, I could play. As Levine has joked, we got a documentary that's coming out soon. Banger Films shot it, and there's a scene where Levine talks about seeing me there, and him and Gil deciding, oh yeah, this is the guy. And Levine goes, he was a little short, maybe he's kind of short, but we figured he was all right. He'd work. So, anyways, they offered me the job, and I was desperate to. I was, as I said earlier, I was living with my parents still, and they offered me $175 a week, whether the band played gigs or not. And I was desperate to move out with my girlfriend. We wanted to, get a place together, and so it was more that there was this incentive to be able to go and move out with my girlfriend than it was to join their band.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but that they were smart, and they had their business plan together, and I was impressed with their ambition was huge. Like they had a much stronger ambition career wise, and they had a lot more experience than I did. I was
Mm.
kind of junior partner,
Mm.
so that's how it started. Yep.
So how short were you?
Sorry, how what was it?
How short were you?
Well, I was a little taller than I am now because I'm 67, so I've
Oh,
actually
you
shrunk a little.
shrunk.
I'm 5'8", like
Oh,
so,
okay.
and that's maybe in decent heels. I'm
Well,
not as short as Tom Cruise, but I'm short.
yeah, yeah. So I guess the other guys were taller.
Yeah, yeah. Mike was maybe 6'1". Gil's about 6'3".
Yeah,
Like Gil's a big boy,
yeah.
and Yeah, so I was definitely the shrimp. When you see those pictures of the three of us,
Yeah.
those headshots, and
Yeah.
it looks like I'm
Yeah.
about a foot shorter, and it's
Yeah.
because, well, I'm short.
They should have put you on a box.
That's the Tom Cruise way. Put you on
That's
the
right.
box.
That's
Audie
right.
Murphy.
You
They
know,
would put Audie Murphy on the box so that he could kiss the girls. We used to do meet and greets after shows.
uh-huh.
It was a fairly common thing because we had tour support,
Yeah.
sponsorship from the very, very early days of that. And so part of those things is you have to do meet and greets. If it's Pepsi, you're got to meet the local bottlers and their families and whatever.
Mhm.
So and often at those meet and greets, when I would meet girls that had sort of seen me on MTV, the first thing they would always say is, "Wow, you're a lot shorter than you're a lot shorter than you had been in my fantasies."
Oh,
They, they didn't actually say it that way, but it was
yeah.
like, "Wow, you're a short guy." I go,
Yeah.
"Yeah, well, yes, proud story of my life." I'll
But
tell you this, TC. If I had had my druthers, I would have been in sports. I loved sports, and I was a real jock in high school. I played
really.
but I was in the end I was too small, to
Mhm.
play football, to play baseball. Like I was too little, and I would play football, and I get my bones broken, like because I could run fast, but they could when they caught me, oh boy, I'd snap like a twig.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I had to. I didn't never wanted to work for a living, so since the sports thing wasn't going to work out, and I wanted to play, so music became the next logical thing because you get to play, and that's what I loved. So
Right, right. Well, you may have not been a tall guy, but you're an awesome front man.
thank you. Um, I enjoyed the role, I mean, and I played it to its fullest. There was a lot about me where I would say, generally speaking, I am actually a modest and shy kind of character.
Hmm.
But once you've been in show business and you've learned, okay, this is how it works,
Hmm.
you develop that extroverted kind of ham bone side, and I was pretty good at it, and I knew that I was pretty good at it. But I think the jock thing plays into it too. If you're the kind of guy, like you see a guy like Jagger, man, he moves around like the guy's a jock. Like he truly is just
Hmm.
like he's this wiry, skinny little dude that just never stops. And if I was picking a soccer team, I'd pick him.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
there's a guy that plays bass in Iron Maiden, Steve Harris. I don't know if you know Steve or if you've ever talked to him,
No.
but I got to play soccer with him, and he was one of those kind of guys that was a jock that he could have had a career as a professional soccer player in England. Like he played on one of the feeder things for I can't remember which squad it was, but he's that good. So when we played a little pickup game, Steve Harris scored like 7 goals in the game. Like he was just unbelievable. But when you watch him play bass and you see him in Iron Maiden things, you can realize, yeah, that guy's a jock. Like he's just got the way he moves,
Yeah.
the body confidence that he's got, and even just the way he plays that bass in Iron Maiden, that gung, 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 like he's just killing it. Like he's just eating that thing up.
Right,
So
right,
spot the jocks. Yeah.
right, right. Now Gil, he's still around, right?
Yeah, yeah. But he doesn't want to play gigs. Like he started the whole metalworks business thing.
Uh-huh.
And but yeah, like when it comes to we did a Triumph reunion in 2008. I think we went to Sweden and we played Rocklahoma, and so 2 gigs, and then he kind of went, "Yeah, I've had enough. That's good for me. We've come full circle, and we've done the reunion things now." But he doesn't enjoy it. But he does like to go out and play golf, and he's still very good at that. you
Is
know, there's a little. It's not a foursome, but it's like Alex Life's in a Rush, and Tom Cochran, who wrote Life Is a Highway,
uh-huh.
uh, you know, and Gil, and the three of them are like they're not scratch golfers, but they've got very, very low handicaps.
Gotcha.
And so they always fish somebody else into being in the foursome who goes like, "What are you guys like? This is unbelievable. It's like we're out on the tour here. Those boys can still hit it."
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. What about Mike?
Mike, um, like we did a thing for the Banger film documentary where we did a fan fest
Hmm.
and we played 3 songs. Like we had rehearsals and we got geared up. And when it was starting, Mike was saying, "Look, I got some arthritis in my hands, and this is going to be sketchy. I don't know how good this is going to turn out." But he was into it, and when we played, I think he was into it more than Gil and I were. Even it meant more to him, I think.
Uh-huh.
Um, but Mike was always a kind of a plays his cards close to his vest kind of guy, and he was always into investing money and doing deals and so I think he's still fairly active. And I'll give you some insight into Mike and his role in the band. Early on, once Triumph started to actually have some success, Mike bought a house in Jamaica, and so every sort of December, January, Mike was gone. He would go to Jamaica and be in Jamaica for like 3 months. He'd miss the Canadian winters. He'd spend his entire winters down there. So the story of Triumph was also the story of Mike Levine being this absentee partner, for the beginning of every year. And he sold the house. I think last year he finally sold the house. But Mike was always that kind of a guy that it was like, he was in the band, but he was also, he had his own thing and he had his own life. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you guys are still friends, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, there were 20 years there where we weren't. When I left the band,
Yeah.
they were not happy with me, and then lawyers fought for a long time. But the quick story about that one is, I had a brother that I lost to cancer, and when he was really sick, and he was at the end stages, and you go through that stuff where you're trying to sort of take care of everything in your life. Take care of business before you go. And so I'm sitting with him, and he says, you got a lot of baggage of your own. You got shit you got to clean up. And I went, don't make this be about me, you son of a bitch. And my brother's going, no, like, if you want to, do a bucket list thing for me, I'd like you to get back with those guys and Triumph. I go, oh man, are you kidding me? And he says, no,
Wow.
you got to clean that up. You got to fix that up. Because he was a big fan of the band, and
Yeah.
he was like one of my biggest fans in my life.
Yeah.
So I went, okay, all right, yes, I can do this for you. I will do this. So I did. And I'm glad that I did because, I mean, eventually I lost my brother, but I got 2 of my brothers back,
Yeah.
guys that I'd spent 13 years with, foxholes and, through the wars and climbing the
Yeah.
ladders. And, we did a lot of
Yeah.
crazy shit together that it was nice to get them back so that we could say, all right, now we can talk about all the crazy shit we did together, and we won't talk about you know how it went bad. We'll be able to relive the stuff that was good.
Right.
So yeah, I was grateful for my brother, you know, kicking my ass.
What was your brother's name?
Russell,
Russell.
yeah, Russell Baxter Emmett. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a character and a half.
Yeah. He knew what was best for you.
He did, and I think that's one of the things about being in show business is that you know, there's a lot of things that happen where your own ego can sort of make you think like, and of course, art is something where you say, no, no, I make decisions. This is me, and I make these decisions. But sometimes in life, it's much bigger picture than just art or just show business ego. Life is bigger than that, and so sometimes it is good to have people that can sort of give you perspective and say to you,
Yeah.
you might have your head way, way up your own butt right now.
Right.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, guys, you are watching Barside Jive, and we are on the air with Rik Emmett of Canadian rock band Triumph. Now, Rick, let me tell you, in my opinion, you're one of the most underrated guitarists and entertainers of all time. In fact, Triumph is probably the most underrated band of all time, my opinion. Why do you think that is?
Oh, there's all kinds of reasons why. Well, okay, we'll start with, the first five or six. We're from Canada, and so's Rush. And Rush was sort of like an elite band. They were up there on a global level with bands like Pink Floyd, and like they were unique, and they were Canadian, and they were three piece. And so here we are, we're coming along on their coattails. So that's part of it. That we're sort of always going to be maybe in their shadow a little bit. Then the next thing is we go, well, oh no, we're different.
Mm-hmm.
We're a band that, like, we might have sort of more accessible type music than they do, but we never really had the kind of hit that was like the way Journey would have a hit, or Foreigner would have a hit, or Styx would have a hit that would make them go, quintuple platinum or sextuple platinum. You know what I mean? Like, we only ever went platinum. So we didn't quite have that huge monster hit that made us become, like, we never got to play Rock in Rio. We never got to headline. Like when we played the US Festival in '83 and we were on the bill, but we were sandwiched in between Judas Priest and Scorpions, and Van Halen was the natural headliner of that day.
Right, right.
We're never really in that echelon. We were always more one of those bands like Scorpions or Judas Priest or something like that. Um, and I'm not complaining. It's fine. It's great. But those are the reasons why. See, and another thing was we were a band that was kind of a split personality band. Gil sang some songs, and I did, and then it sort of came out that in the end, the really evergreen kind of Triumph things like "Lay It on the Line," "Magic Power," "Fight the Good Fight," like these were songs that I wrote and sang. And
Right.
so then there was the thing in the band where Gil was going like, "Well, what am I, chopped liver?" Like, come on, the band has got to really try to make a solid effort here to make a song that I sing become a big hit. So now the band had this kind of duality that was functioning that way on a business level too, and at the record company, and so sometimes that's not good. Like the record companies like it when it's nice and simple and clean and straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Plant is the singer, and Jimmy Page is the Svengali great amazing guitar player, and we don't want to make it so that no, don't make that be two guys. That's not the way Aerosmith works. That's not the way,
Right.
Foreigner's got Lou Gramm, and Journey's got Steve Perry, and come on, we want that front man. But when you're the front man, but you're kind of half interested in also, you know, playing the classical guitar solo in the middle of the show,
Right.
then it's kind of like, no, no, what are you doing? You're splitting the focus. You can't be the heavyweight, musician guy. You got to be the front man that the girls all scream for. Like, so that's just part of the way the business works, and that plays into it.
Yeah.
And I mean, in my list of five, I'll say maybe the fifth one is Triumph never really early on got the idea of oh, you got to have the producer that's like a really hit kind of guy that really understands about getting something onto the charts. And by the time we got there in the band's career, we had Eddie Kramer come in and do Thunder Seven.
Right.
And Eddie had done Led Zeppelin records and
Oh
Jimi
yeah.
Hendrix records. And, like, Eddie knew his stuff,
Yeah.
and Eddie had a name and a reputation. But I think, by that time, we also had our own bullheaded ways of doing things. So, with Eddie, there was a little bit of kind of, but Eddie was smart enough to go, well, I'm not going to fight about it. I'll do the job. And
Mm-hmm.
the next project, we got Ron Neveson. And Ron had done Heart and Starship, and he'd resurrected, bands that were on the skits, and we butted heads with him. It didn't work.
Oh
And
really?
then, yeah, the guy that took over that record was Neveson's second in command, a guy named Mike Klink, and Mike Klink went on to do, Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. Like, Mike he
Big.
was a heavyweight guy,
Yeah.
but he wasn't heavyweight when he was salvaging our project because we, blown things with Neveson. So we sort of were the guys that kind of gave Klink, I don't know, like his working boots. Like we sort of established him as a frontline guy, but it was just premature.
Mm-hmm.
If we'd waited 6 months, or if we'd done another record with him a year later, maybe the industry would have gone, no, Mike Klink, he's heavy. Well, yeah, well, like let's this Triumph record, it deserves all of our attention. That's not the way it worked. So there's my top five. I could go on and list several dozen, but
Let's speak to your guitar skills for a moment, Rik. How did you get so good?
Well, it's lovely that you say it. Like I think if you talked to any guitar player of any importance, they would have a humility about themselves and about the way they play. Like I've played with George Benson and I've played with Steve Morse, you know, and they're humble guys, like they're just being themselves. They just happen to be that great. And I don't think of myself as being that great. I don't think of myself as being in a league with Steve Morse. I think of him as being, a level up from me.
Uh-huh.
But if you had Steve Morse or George Benson here, they would say, "Man, for a guitar player, can that Canadian guy ever sing?" And I think that was part of what made it so that I became a musician more than a guitar player. I was more into the writing of songs. I was more into the singing and writing of songs. The guitar was always a kind of a secondary. I mean, it was part of it for me for sure. And I came through that whole era of guitar heroism, like the Beatles started this thing, but then, well, when they wanted a really, really great solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Eric Clapton came in and played it because Clapton was kind of the hero. The Beatles were not guitar heroes. Clapton had more of that role. And of course, Hendrix and all of these people, that had started to happen. But then progressive bands came along, and now you got guitar players that are like, you know, Steve Howe of Yes was a big role model for me. Like though that was like guitar heroism, it was a big part of the thing. So when I'm in Triumph, naturally you're going to do the guitar hero thing. But for me, naturally, I'm much more of a guitar player. Like, and I mean, one of the reasons I left Triumph was I went, no, I want to do other stuff with the guitar. I want to play other kinds of music. I want to, like Pat Metheny is one of my favorite guitar players. There's nothing that's very rock about Pat Metheny. He's just not a rock guy. you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
But I am a rock guy. There's a lot of blues in the way that I approach the guitars, which that's the way rock guys think. But I've had a fairly eclectic approach to the guitar. One of the first good guitars I ever owned was a nylon string classical guitar. When I was a kid at Christmas, my brothers would buy me Segovia records and Julian Bream records and say, don't just listen to this stuff, listen to this too, because this is really important and it's really cool. And it was, and so those were influences I had from early on. I wasn't just going to be a sort of a one-trick pony kind of guy. And there was once a feature got written in a guitar magazine about me, and the guy said the problem with Emmett is he's just too talented for his own damn good. Like he spreads it out, kind of too wide and too thin for your average person who wants to be able to go, oh no, this is what the guy is. And I thought it was fair. I thought it wasn't really criticism as much as it was, keen observation. The guy had it right, like it's true. I kind of, I'm not never satisfied to make the same record. I'm going to make a different one next time. And I'm going to try on a different style. And people go, are you playing like Stevie Ray Vaughan on that record? I go, yes, I am. Yeah, I wanted to do that. Life is too short. I had a chance. So I figured I'd take it. So, but I think in the end that does work against you a little bit because now you're not, from a marketing point of view, you're not, boxed properly so that everybody can get it. That's okay.
Right. Do you ever regret leaving Triumph when you did?
No, no. I mean,
It was time.
and I'm not the kind of guy that I don't live with regret. I move on. Life is about moving on. So I live in the present and I think about the future. Naturally, when you do interviews and when you're doing documentaries and when I'm gonna write a memoir soon. Like when you get involved in that stuff, now you have no choice. You have to look back. So when I look back, I think, I probably should have tried to work something out with the guys in Triumph after the Allied Forces album, 81, 82, maybe
Mm-hmm.
Never Surrender, 82, 83. I should have said, guys, you have got to let me make records outside of the band. You got to give me time away from the band. Like, let's work something out so that I can have a life away from just being in this thing. And I didn't. I was kind of gutless, for 5, 6 years, until finally in 88, I was going, okay, there's only one way this is going to work. I am going to have to leave. I'm going to have to quit and leave. I could have maybe worked something out where I could have had my own life and been my own boss, still being a part of Triumph. But because it took us 20 some odd years, 30 years, but we did eventually arrive at a place where we're all allowing ourselves to be ourselves. But it's hard when you're young and you start out. It's like Three Musketeers, and you're making every sacrifice to have this thing called Triumph, become successful. But then when it becomes successful, now it's also this thing that's kind of got you trapped.
Right,
I
right.
mean, it happened to the Beatles, and they were a thousand, a million times, more important than Triumph in terms of the way business and money and everything worked. So, you know, um, yeah, I don't regret it that I left. I regret that I didn't work something out when I was younger and sooner. That could have been more grown up,
Right,
more mature way to deal with it.
right. Was it kind of a bad move financially to leave Triumph?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
of course it was. It was disaster. It
yeah,
was horrible. But I mean, I had enough of a name and a reputation that I could build something of my own that I could, sustain. I could have a career on my own,
yeah.
um, and I could go out and play gigs. I mean, I could still do that to this day. I can still go out and play a gig and be Rik Emmett. And it's really part of it is because I'm Rik Emmett, the guy that used to be in Triumph.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize the reality of that. Um, but I mean, in terms of the partnership that I had with the two guys and the money that I had to leave on the table to quit, the way the partnership contracts were punitive, that I had to walk away from publishing contracts and all of that stuff, it was a disaster financially. But you know, I can tell you this, DC, and it's all truth. Okay, it's not always about money.
Right.
You know, life is not always about money. And if you think it is, you're barking up the very wrong tree because life is not about money. Like part of it has to be,
Right.
but if you make your decisions, I was making decisions when I was in Triumph based on the money,
Mm-hmm.
staying in because of the money. It's the wrong decision to make, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Rick, I was a big fan of Triumph back in the 80s, like so many of my friends, and songs like, Lay It on the Line, Magic Power, When the Lights Go Down, Never Surrender, Follow Your Heart. I could go on and on. I Live for the Weekend, Spellbound, all those songs. And you were the principal songwriter, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, your list is a good one because you've got a nice blend there. Like a song like Spellbound, that was more Gil. Follow Your Heart was 50-50. There was still, we were doing a lot of stuff on that Thunder 7 record where he and I were trying to write songs from the ground up. Like I would say 40% of the music ideas that are in a song like Fight the Good Fight, they were Gil's ideas.
Mm.
Gil was kind of the guy that said, I want a riff. Rick, come up with a riff. I want on the snare. I want to go ka 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 ka. That's what he wanted to do. He had that rhythmic vibe. So I'm one of the ones that, well, okay, how about these chords? Near, 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 near. And he went, Yeah, man, that's great. So they were like 50-50, those kinds of things. I would write the melodies and write the lyrics,
Right.
for songs like that. But Gil would write his own lyrics. Like you mentioned, I Live for the Weekend. Gil probably wrote 95% of that song. He probably, because that's a fairly simple riff. And Gil
Mm-hmm.
would often be driving in his car and he'd have a dictaphone and he'd pick it up and he'd go like like, and so that shuffle vibe, that boom ba bop ba boom ba bop ba boom ba bop, he's hearing it in his head and he's singing those chords, right?
Right.
And he's going, the chorus is going to go, I live for the weekend. Like, he wrote those tunes. That's 100% him.
Yeah.
So, you know, but yeah, as I said earlier, the evergreen ones like "Lay It on the Line," "Magic Power," you know, I brought "Lay It on the Line" to those guys and said, "This is how it goes. Don't mess around with it. You know,
No
this is how it's
tweaking.
gonna." Yeah, yeah. Somebody's out there like that song was off of a Sport of Kings, like that was truly 11th Hour,
Yeah.
like Clink and Tom Trumbull for the A&R guy from the record company go, we don't hear a big hit here. Like this is all okay, but there's no chance at a smash hit. Rick, can you go write one? And 11th Hour, I went off and I wrote that song. When I brought it to the guys, I said, look, we do not have time to mess around with this. And believe me, I think what I've written is really, really good. So let's just do it the way I wrote it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They went, yeah, okay, fine. And they did it. And that was the highest charting song we ever had on Billboard.
Right.
So,
Right.
I knew how to
Wow.
do it. I knew how to write hit songs,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, can you like pick out one of the songs that you wrote or co-wrote, and there's got to be one that has a really cool backstory to it.
Well, Fight the Good Fight's a good example. We had built the Metalworks studio, and it was the first time we were able to sort of work pre-production wise without having to look at the clock. It was our own studio, so we did pre-production in there, and I can remember working out the arrangement for the tune and coming up with it. And Gil sat at the piano. Do you know the song? Are you
Yeah. Yeah.
familiar with
Yeah.
it?
Uh-huh. Yes.
So Fight starts and it's got this kind of floaty doodle doo 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 doodle doo 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 doodle doo 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 dee doo. It's like a little sequence thing, right?
Right.
And Gil sat at the piano and he does not know how to play piano, but he's a smart enough guy that he can sit there and with little three finger chords, and he'd worked out this little part, this little ding dong gling doo doo glung 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 with the little sequence of chords dropping down.
Right.
And I said, man, that's going to make a great intro. I just got to figure out how am I going to get it out of the key that you've. Once he goes down the sequence, how the f do we ever get out of that key to the key that the song's going to be in
Right.
for the ga 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 the part that we'd come up with. So I was the one that sort of had to figure how does it glue together. But so we glue it all together. We got this thing, and it's got all these parts, and so stuff like the parts of the song that are like the don't get discouraged, don't be afraid, we can make it through another day. That's to me that's like a B verse. Gil would have no idea about writing B verses. I
Yeah.
would be the guy that said, I'm going to put this chunk of thing in there that's going to lead us to the chorus. The da da ba ba bang bang chicky chicky bang bang, which is the chorus fight. So we got all these parts, and now it's time. Rick goes home and writes lyrics, and so I write this lyric, and the song is called "Fight the Good Fight." And my aunt at the time was dying of cancer, and she was, going like, when we go to the hospital to visit, it was like she was saying, like, what's going to happen to me? Like, what do I do? And I would say, there's only one thing you can do is you just have to sort of fight this good fight. You have to decide what the good fight is, and you have to fight it.
Right.
And if you decide, the best thing I can do is be cleaner. I just want to give up. I just want to go. Like that's okay too. If you decide that, but you have to decide for yourself what's good, you know. So that's my interpretation of a good fight. You choose your battle, right? You
Right.
decide. So I write this lyric, and it means a lot to me, and I bring it to the band, and I sing some tracks in the studio and stuff. And Gil goes, "Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like fight the good. I don't want to call it fight the good fight. It's too biblical. I vote against it." So I go, "Okay, well, and the lyric of the tune, so it goes like, fight the good fight every moment, every minute, every day." So it had this everything. So I
Right.
said, "Okay, I'll do another version of the vocals for you, and we'll do the song, and we'll call it Every Moment." And so it'll go bang bang, every moment of your lifetime, and that'll be the song. So we had two versions of the vocal, and it comes to a vote, and of course when you have a trio,
Yeah.
there's always going to be a deciding vote. It's a very solid democratic
Oh
structure.
yeah. Yeah.
So, Mike and I vote for good fight, and Gil loses the vote. And we always had an expression in the band, and it was like, look, if you lose the vote, it's just your turn to eat shit and die. So that's what you got to do. You just got to eat shit and die. So Gil goes, okay, I'll eat shit. It's
Yeah.
going to be fight. So it becomes fight the good fight. Now, I'm just going to tell you this because this is the really cool, sort of footnote to the story. The other version of the vocal on the tag out, it's a double chorus. And in the second chorus, I'd sung this thing which was like right up in nosebleed territory,
Oh yeah.
put the clips on your genitalia. And it was like, every moment of your lifetime, every minute, every day. Right.
Right.
So we kept that part from the original vocal. We kept that line in the double. So that's the take from the other vocal. And then I had to punch in, fight the good fight every moment on the tag, because we had to get fight the good fight into the last chorus that I'd done because that every moment was so good. It was like,
Right.
it was like this really nice, you maybe get it 1 out of 20 tries. So anyways, that's the backstory of that
What
tune.
a cool story. I knew you'd have something good.
Yeah.
So guys, you are watching Barside Jive, and we are still on the air with Rik Emmett of Canadian rock band Triumph. Now, Rik, I noticed a guitar there behind you. Is that right?
Yeah, there's several.
Did you want to play a little bit for us?
Well, I hadn't planned on it, but
Now that I
I can
asked,
play you a little something.
what are you gonna
What do you want to hear? Some Bach?
play?
You want to hear some Triumph, I guess, right?
Wow, Rik Emmett,
Oh,
you're such a badass. Thank you for
there
doing
you
that, man.
go.
Thank you for doing that. I
You're
didn't know.
welcome.
I knew I saw one guitar there. I didn't know if you had a double. I assumed you had a double neck back there somewhere, but I didn't see
Well,
one.
this is only you're in my library right now,
Okay.
and so or I'm in my library, and so you're your screen is showing my library. These are just my library guitars.
Okay.
So my studio is in the basement, and there's about 45 guitars down there. These are just the 5 that I keep handy for, when I'm in more a jazz mood. These are sort of my jazz guitars and my acoustic for plinking and plunking. But
you still
there's dozens of guitars downstairs,
do you still have
including the double deck.
is it from the Triumph days?
No, well, yes and no. When we did the reunion stuff in 2008, Gibson provided me with a new double neck,
Uh-huh.
and so it's that one. So and I did have a white Gibson double neck in the very early days of Triumph, but no, it's a replacement one.
Okay.
Yeah, but and Les Pauls and things, and so there's not too many because I have the original acoustic guitar that my grandfather gave me.
Wow.
I still have it. It's been sanded down and it has no strings on it, but
yeah,
because I did that when I took it to camp one year when I was a kid. And I have the first good nylon string classical guitar. I still have it. And yeah. But I have a guitar in my collection, which if people go on YouTube, they can find this video somewhere. It's called Hall and Sons, and they were made in Connecticut in 1860 something. So this guitar was made, and it's a little one. It's the same size as this. We call them, me and my luthier, we call these peanut guitars. They're, it's just a small one like this, small body, parlor size guitar, and it's 1864, and I had it redone, and you can't keep it at concert pitch. You got to keep it a little lower. But I wrote some new songs that are on my website for download. It's called Folk Songs for the Farewell Bonfire. And there's a song called The King of Rock and Roll. And I did it on this, guitar that's like 140 years old. I made it long, 160 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rik, looking back over your entire career, it's a lot of years. What are you most proud of?
Wow. I think I'm proud of the fact that even though I had, commercial success on fairly good levels, I never let it become the thing that dictated what I was going to do with my life. That the most important thing in my life was always my family, always. And the best thing I ever did in my life was marry the woman I married. And the next best thing that I did was have kids with her and raise those kids. That's the best stuff that I did.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to let my career and my music necessarily be something that, dominated in that fashion. And then I wasn't going to let the commercially successful thing become the thing that defined what I was going to do in my life with music, because there was so much good music that I wanted to try and do. And, if an example is you make a jazz record, jazz is only like 1% of the marketplace. And of that 1%, people are buying old Miles Davis records. It's like Legion of the Dead is what's successful in jazz. It's not necessarily, young modern people that are making jazz. That's you talk about uphill climbs, man. Make a jazz record. That's an uphill climb. But I don't care if they sell. I want to make it because I want to challenge myself to make that kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
Just as, playing a little bit of classical, I won Smooth Jazz Awards in Canada. Was I going to allow that to become something that was going to, well, this is my career now. I'm only going to go on cruise ships and make smooth jazz. No, no way. I made rock records after making smooth jazz records. And I made good rock records. I made one for Mascot Provoke in 2016 called Res 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at a dinner party, and somebody played it, and I hadn't listened to it in 3 years. And I listened to it and I went, man, we kicked some ass on this record. This is a good record. I played some nice guitar on this record.
Yeah.
I'm a really good rock guitar player. Sometimes I forget that I'm good at things because I've gone on, I'm doing other stuff,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm most proud of, that I never sat on, one thing for too long without going, well, that's enough of that. Let's try something else now. Let's move along.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm busting my buttons proud of that. It's to me, it's all about sort of being humble and grateful. Like, to me, music is an infinite challenge, infinite. So why would I think I'm something big and smart and great? Like, I have this infinite thing in front of me that I have to try and chase.
Yeah.
So uh, it keeps me humble, and maybe I'm most proud of the fact that I was willing to always put my gifts, my talents, my abilities, my whatever, my creativity towards that humble pursuit, as opposed to going, that's right, I'm a rock star. You know,
Yeah.
I'll just fart into this microphone and I'll see if I can't sell 300,000 units.
Rik, that's some great advice. Great advice. And, as an outsider looking into your career, besides the fact I'm just a huge fan of Triumph, you're so talented. I got to know, do you have like a useless talent you can tell me about?
Well, my wife would like it if I cooked better, you know, but I am a lousy cook.
Are you?
And part of it is, to be a really good cook, you got to be able to do like 4 or 5 things at once,
Yeah.
because this is over here on this boiler and it's going, and this thing, and now I got to be doing this, and like you have to. And I'm only ever good at doing one thing at once. Like, just give me the guitar and just let me play the guitar. That I'm good at that. I'm not good at cooking because you got to split your focus, and I was never any good at that. So, and I will tell you this: I am an absolutely horrible golfer. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, they still invite you though, right? The guys.
no, well, no, they gave up inviting me along.
Did
You
they?
know, they see it once or twice, and then they go, "Whoa, geez,
Oh yeah.
no, we don't want to be on the course when Rik is wrapping his driver around a tree, and has to keep going out into the lake to try and get his balls back." No,
4.
yeah, exactly. No
Oh
one
man.
invites me to play golf anymore, and I'm quite happy with that.
Something that you guys did really impressed me when I read about it, and since the very beginnings, you guys individually and collectively have contributed your time, energy, money, music, equipment in support of a wide range of charitable and educational, as well as humanitarian causes. I've read that Triumph's largest single charitable contribution was its final appearance at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto back in 1987, and all proceeds, over $179,000, were donated to the United Way of Canada, the Greater Toronto Division. And more recently, Triumph raised over $250,000 with its Signed Guitars program, where you guys have signed over 100 Fender guitars and donated them to various charities for live and silent auctions, raising between $1,500 and $6,500 each. Individually, you guys have also contributed guitars for Kids with Cancer, CNIB Ride for Sight, and Barrett House AIDS Hospice. So giving back since the very beginning is a big part of who you are, isn't it, Rik?
Yes, and I mean, how can you be in a band that's called Triumph and not be about positivity and inspiration, and trying to make it so that you're giving other people a chance to get a leg up. So um it's always been a part of the band's philosophy, and then once we got to the point where we were able to do good things for other folks, then it only seemed logical and natural that that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, part of this too is I get a little uncomfortable in these kinds of services. Like, I don't like tooting my own horn about this stuff. Yeah, I just think it should be, everybody should do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do it, you should just do it. And go, hey, look at me,
Right.
like to me, philanthropy and charity, they're not about sort of, trying to make a big deal about it. It's just about the doing of it. And that was one of the reasons why I loved teaching. Like, you know, uh, my life for over 20 years was, go to the college and teach on Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and then climb on a plane on Thursday and go somewhere and play gigs on the weekend, and then come home and do my lesson planning on Sunday, and then back to the college. Because here's these young people, they love music, and it matters so much to them, and I can give them the benefit of some experience. I can say, look, School of Hard Knocks, I've been there. Let me give you the benefit of that. Now, did I do that for the paychecks? I can tell you I did not.
Mm.
Like, you don't get paid a lot of money. I can make a lot more money climbing on a plane and going somewhere to play a gig.
Right.
Like,
Right.
wasn't about the money. It was about that there was a kind of a spiritual value in teaching, that I got as much benefit out of it as the students did. The
Hmm.
students teach me, keep me young. Like I would have never learned about things like snarky puppy if it hadn't been for college students. You know what I mean? Like, um, so there's great benefit if people approach life with humility and charity, all of the virtuous kinds of things.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I've always tried to sort of hone more towards that than, the sinning side of, the vice side of rock and roll.
Right.
Like
Right.
that never interested me much. I mean, I think Steve Wozniak of Apple hired us to play on that US Festival gig because we were the band in white. We were the guys that, hey, the magic power of the music, hold on to your dreams.
Right.
Like he was going, this isn't Judas Priest and studs and leather, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so he kind of went, no, I want that band on that bill. So I think it allowed us to be unique. It allowed us to be ourselves, and that's part of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very cool one. We can't close without mentioning your solo work. I know that this past July, Roundhill Records reissued 11 of your solo recordings in digital, including some songs going all the way back to 1998, right?
Yeah.
You want to take this opportunity to plug your solo work?
Sure, why not? I
Okay.
mean, why am I here if not to be plugging? Um, yeah, so a huge, wide-ranging catalog of stuff.
Huge.
Yeah, and so they go, okay, we want to put these out on your birthday for like digital download and streaming. You've never really chased that stuff. Like I would just make these records, I put them out on my website. If
Yeah.
people wanted them, they could get them.
Yeah.
And when I go out and play live gigs, somebody at the merch table would be selling them off the stage, kind of thing. But I never really wanted to chase iTunes or any of this stuff. It wasn't in my nature. If
Right.
I made my money back for making the record, I go, great, now I'll make another one. And it'll be something completely different. So you know. So they go, we want to put these records out on your birthday. I go, well, hang on, it's July. There's 13 of those. One of those is a Christmas record. You don't want to you don't want to put a Christmas record out in the middle of July.
Right.
So let's not do that necessarily. So there were a couple that they decided, okay, we'll hold back on those. But generally speaking, yeah. And so it was lovely. It was kind of like I'd gotten to the point in my own life where I was thinking, yeah, I'm probably going to retire. Probably don't want to go out on the road anymore. And I'd written a book of poetry, and I was getting a publishing deal to put the book of poetry out. So, I was kind of in this headspace where I was going, well, whatever it is, it is, and I'm fine with that. But then here comes these guys, Roundhill, and of course they'd done the Triumph catalog, so I think they kind of felt like, hey, we better toss a bone to Emmett here because, he's got all of his stuff. So it's like, we want to do this. I go, this is great because now my kids won't have to inherit all of this publishing catalog and these masters. They don't have any idea what to do with it. It's just going to be a burden to them. So if Roundhill buys it from me, then I can just, sock the money away. The kids can, when I die, they can all take a trip to Hawaii and, have a great time. And I go, this is working out great, But now I get this partner, like this patron late in life that's going, we want to make a deal out of you, Rik Emmett. We want to put your stuff out. We would like you to do interviews. We're going to hire a publicist, and we'd like you to talk to people. And I go, hell, this is great. Like, talk about getting a second wind in my sails. Like, this is awesome. So yeah, all that stuff's out there.
Yeah.
And if people want a hard rock record, there's like Liberty Manifesto. If they want, white wine, smooth jazz, there's Swing Shift and Handiwork. And so, there's all kinds of stuff. If they want singer-songwriter, there's Good Faith. Yeah, there's lots and lots of stuff there that they could choose from. So.
And it's available anywhere where digital media is sold.
Yes, thank you, sir. That's very good. iTunes. And plus, if you want to make a Spotify playlist now, you can go. My wife did that.
Yeah.
Because it was never on Spotify before. So now,
right.
We're in the kitchen and we're making dinner, and one of my songs comes up. I go, hey, and she goes, yeah, I can put it on the playlist now. It's finally there. I go, oh shit, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I have to ask you before we go. Some guys are boob guys. Some guys are butt guys. I know you're a boob guy from our earlier conversation. So, what's your favorite cup?
No, that's actually not true. Even though, how can you not be a fan of all things feminine and lovely? I don't want to sound like I'm being sexist or
oh, of course not.
No, but generally speaking, I'm more of a legs guy, to be honest.
Are you really?
Oh yeah, because if the legs are good, then probably she's in pretty good shape, and we're talking all over. So, but
now wait a minute. That's not what the 20-something-year-old Triumph frontman would have said.
No, but I'm trying to, look, I've said so many good positive things in this interview. Why are you going to make it so that at the end I put it right into the toilet?
Drag you through the trash.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to steer clear of this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already said too much, DC. Don't lead me down the path.
Dude, you're a great guy, and I've had a blast. And
good.
It's been a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend all this time, over an hour, with me. I really do mean this, that I wish you and your family, continued success, good health, and the very best that this life has to offer.
Thank you. That's it. That was well said. It sounded like you're making a toast to me. And I toast you back. I've enjoyed this very much. Yeah. Cheers. It's been great. And I enjoyed talking to you and telling stories, and we'll do it again sometime. All right.
Yeah, Rik, I'd love to. I really do. And I appreciate Hadley and Chip and those folks helping make this possible. Will you give me one more second and close out? I want to chat with you off camera a moment.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Hang on. Guys, that was Rik Emmett, guitarist, singer, and best known as member of the Canadian rock band Triumph. Remember that all of my content is on YouTube. Just search for Barside Jive Live.
BarsideJiveLive.com.
The zoo gives you rock for the senses. Lows that evolve into highs that pierce